Kamen Rider Zi-O.
Hey YouTube, Kamen Rider here. Welcome to my review for Kamen Rider Zi-O episode 10. I'm continuing, if you didn't watch my Lupin Ranger review, how dare you, of continuing my trend of putting something in the background or foreground, whatever, of what I'm reviewing so that it seems less boring here. Hopefully I don't knock him over like I did with the Lupin stuff. I can't make any promises though, but at least I can tide my jeans while I do this review. Also watch our other streets on Fridays. Anyway, so I thought this was a very good episode of Zi-O. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it was the best main writer or cast member returning appearance in terms of substance. Like, we've gotten some pretty good appearances that I've enjoyed. I thought the Fies ones were pretty well done. But I think this one was the least awkward and, like I said, most substantial because, you know, there is a little bit of weirdness to these returning characters because for most of their appearance, they have lost their memories of the events of the series, so they're like an altered version of the character we know, and as such, we just, or at least I feel, we don't get as much of a substantial interaction between him, Sogo, like the new cast and the old cast, just because it's a little bit awkward, you know? There's just something off about it because of how little time they spend as the character they were. Sometimes they don't interact very much at all, like I felt Build and Zi-O's interactions were very fleeting. So, but I felt Edgy's was the most substantial. Because even when he was his new sort of, you know, anti-O-wave snap, he still felt like Edgy. Like, there was definitely a difference to his character being like a politician and not just a guy walking around with pants on him. But that's everybody, you know what I mean by O's pants, he even said the line. But like, the core of his character I felt was there. Like, he even said, so long as I have money for tomorrow, you know, and some pants on, underwear, then I'm happy. And so, even though he was slightly altered, he felt the most true to his character, and I thought he had some substantial interactions. Not only getting to see him interact with Hina again, but to interact with, like, Zi-O. And they ended up tying it well with Sogo's weird character motivation of wanting to be a king. All I could hear in this episode was, I just can't wait to be king in my head. But, like, between, like, Dan being a really bad example and Edgy being like a good example of how to treat your subjects. Again, I think I've said this before, but I think it would be much more interesting, maybe cliche, but more interesting if Sogo was much more of a timid guy who had no aspirations to be a leader, so it was like more shocking to find out he was going to be a leader. Like, because he could even do this, because I think they made good use of this with like him wanting to find out the do's and don'ts of being a good leader. And so I think it would be more interesting if he's like, okay, well, if I'm going to be this good leader, I might as well learn, or this leader might as well learn. But I think it's just weird to have the motivation to want to be a king. It's like unrelatable, you know, stop talking about being a king, it's unrelatable. But yeah, I thought they made good use of that, and good use of Edgy sort of imparting like a good lesson, which not only would, you know, relate to Sogo's situation, but was very true to Edgy's character. They even used the flashback of him with that little girl from the series, which was just really neat, a neat callback. So I thought that was really well done. Some of the Gate stuff feels really forced. I feel like that's a really weird relationship. I think I've stated this a couple times in previous reviews, but I always thought that he was gonna kind of be like an antagonist, you know, not like a villain, but like, you know, a presence that was there, like he was fighting the, almost said the Gangler, than other writers as well, but he was against Zi-O. So I thought it was weird that from the get-go he was part of Team Zi-O in a way, like living with them and stuff. But so, now he's left again, and I'm gonna assume he'll be back within a couple episodes back on Team Zi-O, you know what I mean? Especially since he was sent back there to kill him. It's like if the Terminator was like, maybe this Sarah Connor's not so bad after all. But, I don't know, it's just, it's weird. I wish it was handled different. Like, I wish for the first maybe 10 episodes, he was kind of like the anti-hero, where he was fighting for good, but he didn't want to work with Zi-O, and then he lives with them, instead of living with them and then awkwardly being like, no, you suck, so I'm gonna leave. I'm like, well, if you think he's gonna be the overlord, why not just take him out now? I don't know. It's just, I think it's mishandled. The same thing with like the way the conflict happened last episode, where, you know, he thought that Zi-O had gone to the dark side because, you know, he was studying under Dan. And it was very clear that Sogo was putting up some sort of act, but it was weirdly paid off this week because obviously I knew that he was trying to learn something from Dan, but I also felt like he was undercover to take out his organization in some way or find a weakness, but it was just straight up to learn. So that made last week's like overacting and fighting Gates seem ridiculous, because we've seen that plot 1,000 times, Toku and in other shows, when someone's going undercover without telling someone and then they'll like fight their friend to prove that they're undercover. That's what I thought it was last week, but it was just, I don't know. It felt weird for him to go so against Gates last week just because he was studying under Dan to literally study him. So that bothered me a little bit, and the way, just the way Gates' handle, I guess, is bothering me. But the stuff with Edgy I thought was really good. There was like a lot of stuff that debuted for O's. Like we had O's armor debuting this week. You have the little Taka Ride Watch Roid. Just all those R's just rolled me together. Watch R the streets on Fridays. But the Ride Watch thing, and then you had the Tied My Jeans. I should have put the O helmet on there. I'm the dumbest boy in school. But like he had the O's one, and then it got like claws, and thankfully it didn't use a sword like an idiot, because why would you use a sword when you have, you know, Wolverine claws? And then the Taja Door one, and it made me actually kind of upset that I would have paid a little bit more for this if it just came with both of them. Like, you're showing off Taja Door, and that's not part of the main exclusives anyway. But it was kind of neat. I liked that. It made the battle a little more unique. It was kind of cool to see both the claws and like the sort of aerial Taja Door Tied My Jeans. Here's an actual footage simulation. There we go. You see that? Ooh, good thing I have props now, guys. Otherwise I'd be able to pull that off. I would have just done this. Look like an idiot. This isn't even a Tied My Jeans, but this. Whew, the budget's gone up, guys. Anyway, I lost it for a second there. But yeah, so there was like lots of little stuff to debut. I thought the O's armor looked good. It was a pretty cool fight. I like the way that the three animals are used for that and the way it's going to be used in the toy. This tiger hanging off there still looks awkward. I still have this problem with all the armors where like, even if I really like them, like the weird shoulder pads will like kill it for me a little bit. It's not full killing it for O's, but it's still a little weird. But it still made for a cool fight, good looking form. I liked the fight with this thing, both forms of it. I think the little Candroid's really neat. There was also like neat little touches, like again we did the thing where we showed O's fighting and like a specific scene from the show when he lost his powers. In the scene when Dan got recruited to be another O's, you saw the little doll in the background from O's, which was super neat. Just a nice little detail. And all I could think about was that scene when he pulled him out of the ocean and he had the seaweed and he goes, Baba Mali! So like, just, they have nice little touches like that. So I thought that was cool. It was just overall, I think, a very solid episode that I thought was like a good O's tribute, had some good action, made pretty good use of Dan, and I liked that having another main character from a different writer series not only just be in the tribute episode for another season, like mixed the formula up, but I thought they made it, like made pretty good use of it, like to good effect in terms of like the Time Jacker's motivations and Sogo's storyline. And yeah, I thought it was very solid. This episode was enjoyable. I'd give it a 7.5. Next week, I'm pretty excited about because Gaim's my favorite series, so it's about Gaim. And even though if he has a bad wig, you know, he needs to get that fixed some, Gaim. And I think that'll be an interesting episode too, because then we have like him meeting another Zi-O. I think there's all kinds of interesting stuff that like, not only am I excited we're doing the Gaim episode, but that we're gonna have seemingly what hopefully looks to be another episode where you're changing up the formula a bit. Like, I really enjoyed the Faize and the Oh Danny Boy arcs because it's like a tribute episode, but you're also mixing some stuff, so it's not just like, okay, now we're doing this tribute, 2 episodes, then this tribute. But so, you know, I liked it when they mix it up a little bit. I haven't read any of the synopsi, whatever, of the episodes. Like, I've looked at a couple of the pictures and stuff, and like, you know, the leaked set pics of the Gaim arms. But, I think that, like, after this week when they used Dan for, like, oh, because he wants to be king, I think it would be cool if the Time Jacker used Baron as another Gaim. I don't think that's happening, and I can see how that could maybe be repetitive from this week, but I think that would make sense given Baron's end goal in the end of the series, and I think that would be a cool way. I like the idea of using a significant character being the Time Jacker, or the another writer, instead of just, you know, some random guy who, you know, lost his bike, and he's like, oh, I lost my bike, time to become another Blade or something. But yeah, anyway, very solid episode this week, looking forward to next week. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and of course, don't forget to climb steps and ring that bell to get the notification about my videos. It's like this, bing, it's like a little hotel bell, and you're like, boom, you got the notifications. I should just do that all the time now. Good thinking. Dawson Rider, signing out.